My own son got married last weekend. He didn't invite me, didn't even tell me until he called, demanding the keys to my Malibu house for his honeymoon. He told me to move out. I just listened. But when I hung up, a different kind of wedding gift started to form. If you've ever been disrespected, you need to hear this, like, share, and let me know where you're listening from. Eleanor Vance stood in her immaculate Malibu kitchen, the ocean breeze a distant whisper against the panoramic windows. The granite countertops gleamed, reflecting the morning light, but the serenity of her surroundings was shattered by the cold plastic of her phone pressed to her ear. On the other end, her son, Julian Vance, cut straight to the chase, his voice devoid of warmth, echoing with a familiar, chilling entitlement. "We're married now, Mom. We need you to send me the key to the house in Malibu." No hello, no preamble, no explanation for his sudden absence from her life, let alone an apology for excluding her, his own mother, from what should have been one of the most significant moments of his life. Eleanor's heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the sudden, unsettling silence. She swallowed, her voice steadier than she felt, a mere whisper. "Julian, you got married." Julian sighed, an audible gust of impatience that seemed to mock her shock. "Yeah, last weekend. It was a small thing. Serafina has always dreamed of honeymooning at the Malibu house. We need the keys ASAP." Serafina. The name hung in the air, foreign and sharp. Eleanor had never heard it before this moment. Not once had Julian mentioned a Serafina Thorne. Not in passing, not in an offhand comment, not even in the vague, dismissive ways he sometimes spoke of his fleeting relationships. "A small thing?" Eleanor pressed, a flicker of hurt igniting within her. "Julian, your own mother wasn't invited." He scoffed, in dismissive sound that brought a flush to her cheeks. "Mom, it was just a small thing, spontaneous. You wouldn't have enjoyed it anyway. All the fuss, you know how you are." He quickly steered the conversation back to his demand. "So, the keys, can you have them messengered over today? We're heading out this afternoon." A memory surfaced unbidden. Julian, at 7 years old, standing defiant in the kitchen, demanding the last piece of chocolate cake, his eyes narrowed, his voice unwavering. He'd gotten it then, of course. She'd always given in. It was a pattern, one she recognized with a bitter taste in her mouth. Eleanor tried to regain some footing. "Julian, I'd like to meet Serafina first. Perhaps we could have dinner tonight or tomorrow?" His refusal was immediate and firm. "Mom, there's no time for that. This is our window for the honeymoon. She's got a really tight schedule coming up." Then came the casual instruction, delivered with the weight of an unquestionable decree. "It's just a house. You can stay at your condo in the city for a few weeks." Her condo in the city, as if her life could be packed up and moved at a moment's notice to accommodate his whim. "But Julian, Clara's daughters are coming for their annual summer visit next month," she reminded him, referring to her beloved nieces, Clara Vance's girls, who adored spending time at the beach house. "They can skip a year or stay at a hotel," he suggested, as if it were the most reasonable solution in the world. The familiar weight of being the family peacekeeper, the one who always smoothed things over, settled on Eleanor's shoulders. But this time something finally shifted. A line had been crossed, a boundary obliterated with such casual disregard that it sparked an unfamiliar heat within her. Eleanor took a breath, her voice finding a quiet firmness she hadn't known she possessed in years. "Who is she, Julian? Serafina, your wife?" Julian's irritated sigh crackled through the phone line. "Does it matter, Mom? We're in love. It's the real deal. Now can we get back to—" "It matters to me," Eleanor interjected, her voice unwavering. "My son gets married and doesn't tell me, doesn't invite me, and now demands my house for a woman I've never heard of. Yes, Julian, it matters." "Jesus, Mom, it's not that complicated," he snapped, his patience wearing thin. "We wanted privacy for our wedding and a nice place for our honeymoon. That's all. Can you just send the keys?" "I need to think about this, Julian," Eleanor stated, her resolve hardening. "This is all very sudden." Julian's impatience crackled, a palpable force across the miles. "What's there to think about? It's the family beach house. I'm family. I need it for a month. Simple." Eleanor didn't respond. She simply pressed the end call button. I buy in." the finality of the click echoing in the suddenly silent kitchen. Her hand trembled as she lowered the phone, but her mind was already racing. This wasn't about a house key or a honeymoon. This was about Julian, about this mysterious Serafina, and about a disrespect that went far beyond mere oversight. She picked up her phone again, her fingers moving with newfound purpose. First, she called Edward Hayes, a private investigator she'd used years ago for a minor business matter. Then her longtime attorney, Lena Chen. As she made the calls, a plan began to form in Eleanor's mind, intricate and precise. A slow, chilling smile spread across her face. Julian wanted a wedding gift? She would prepare one, but it wouldn't be crystal or silver. It would be the truth. 3 days later, Eleanor delivered an elegantly wrapped box to Julian's downtown loft. Not the keys he demanded, but something far more unsettling. Her uncanny screenplay sense had been screaming something was wrong with his whirlwind marriage. Private investigator Edward Hayes quickly unveiled Serafina Thorne's true identity. Sarah Miller, a woman who'd meticulously reinvented herself, targeting powerful established men. Edward's report detailed how Serafina met Julian at Eleanor's Malibu house, asking strangely detailed questions about the property itself, and revealed her subsequent meetings with luxury hotel developers. Transcripts confirmed Serafina's cynical plan. Julian was merely a means to an end, a perfect target to acquire the Malibu house and sell it for a 7-figure fee, with Julian completely oblivious. Eleanor's resolve hardened, her father's words echoing, "Make the third act twist count." The sleek, minimalist design of Julian's downtown loft felt oddly sterile, a stark contrast to the warmth of Eleanor's Malibu home. 3 days had passed since Julian's audacious phone call, and in that time, a quiet storm had brewed within Eleanor. Today, she wasn't delivering a set of keys. Instead, a meticulously wrapped box, tied with a silver ribbon, sat nestled in her hands, a gift she knew, with a chilling certainty, would make his new bride scream. Eleanor's father, Arthur Vance, had been a celebrated screenwriter, renowned for his intricate plots and unexpected twists. He'd often told her, "Rosie, you have my screenplay sense. Trust that gut feeling when a character's motives don't quite track." That instinct, honed over decades of watching human drama unfold, had been blaring alarm bells since Julian's casual announcement. A sudden marriage, a never-before-mentioned fiancé, and an immediate demand for the house? It simply didn't compute. Private investigator Edward Hayes, a man whose quiet demeanor belied a razor-sharp intellect, had delivered his preliminary report just yesterday. His findings were already etched into Eleanor's memory. Serafina Thorne, he'd begun, his voice even. Née Sarah Miller, born in a small town in Arizona, moved to L.A. at 18. She's reinvented herself thoroughly, Mrs. Vance. Changed her name legally at 22, erased her accent, constructed an entirely new background, even altered her birth year on official documents. Eleanor had stared at the accompanying photo of Serafina, a stunning woman with an almost ethereal beauty, her smile a carefully constructed facade. "What about her acting career, Edward?" she'd asked, remembering Julian's vague mention of Serafina being in the arts. Edward had merely raised an eyebrow. "Minimal at best, a few bit parts, some commercial work that never aired. But her relationship history, Mrs. Vance, that's where things get interesting." He'd laid out a detailed timeline, a chilling pattern emerging. Older, established men in positions of power, a prominent gallery owner, a tech mogul, a state senator, all followed by a swift, strategic professional advancement for Serafina, then a carefully orchestrated, often dramatic, exit. Each relationship had left Serafina Thorne in a better financial or social position than before. Eleanor's gaze flickered to a photo of Julian and Serafina, taken at some glamorous event, their smiles too wide, too perfect. "And Julian?" she murmured, her voice tight. "How did she find him?" Edward had flipped a page in his folder. "They met at a charity event you hosted at the Malibu house, Mrs. Vance, the one you missed last fall when you were in New York." He paused, letting the implications sink in. "She attended specifically to network with industry executives. Several witnesses recall her asking surprisingly detailed questions about the property itself, its square footage, the zoning regulations. potential for expansion. A cold knot tightened in Eleanor's stomach. So the house was the target from the beginning. It wasn't about Julian, not truly. It was about the sprawling, invaluable beachfront property that had been in the Vance family for generations. Mr. Vance was likely identified as the access point after the event, Edward confirmed. His reputation for being susceptible to beautiful, ambitious women is fairly well known in certain circles. The words, though delivered without judgment, were a fresh sting. Further investigation had only solidified Eleanor's grim suspicions. Serafina had been meeting with real estate developers specializing in converting high-value beachfront properties into luxury boutique hotels. Specifically, a name stood out: Howard Kingsley of Oceanfront Developments. The dots connected with a sickening precision. It wasn't just the house Serafina wanted. Eleanor realized, her voice barely a whisper. It was what the house could become. Eleanor's grip on the phone had tightened, her knuckles white. Is Julian aware of any of this? Edward had shaken his head. None that we found, Mrs. Vance. Based on all our intel, Mr. Vance truly believes this is a genuine romantic relationship. He's quite smitten, actually. The finality of Edward's words left Eleanor with a profound sense of sorrow and a simmering fury. Her son, a pawn in a carefully orchestrated game. But this game had just found a new player. Her plan, once a nascent thought, now crystallized with icy precision. First, a crucial meeting with Lena Chen, her attorney. Then she would prepare a wedding gift that Ms. Thorne would never forget. Driving back to Malibu, the sun setting in a blaze of orange and purple over the Pacific, Eleanor recalled her father's voice, clear as if he were beside her. Every great screenplay needs a third-act twist, Rosie. Make it count. She smiled, a cold, unyielding curve of her lips. Oh, it would count. Eleanor met Lena Chen in her meticulously arranged law office, a quiet fortress overlooking downtown Los Angeles, to finalize a decision she knew would shake her family. Lena confirmed, "You're certain about this?" Eleanor replied firmly, "Absolutely. The Malibu house has always been for my grandchildren. This just makes it official." She signed the documents, establishing an irrevocable trust that bypassed Julian and Clara, transferring the house directly to Sophia and Isabel upon Eleanor's death, with Clara as trustee. Lena warned of Julian's inevitable fury, but Eleanor stated, "Julian needs to learn that actions have consequences. This isn't about punishment. It's about protecting what matters." Next, Eleanor met Clara, her daughter, at her sleek city apartment, away from any prying ears in Malibu. "Your brother got married," Eleanor began, and Clara's eyebrows shot up in disbelief. Eleanor explained everything. The unheard-of Serafina, Julian's immediate demand for the house, displacing Sophia and Isabella's annual summer visit. Clara's indignation flashed. "That's completely unacceptable," she declared. Eleanor, unapologetic, revealed the investigation, summarizing Edward Hayes's damning findings. Serafina's fabricated identity, her history of strategic relationships, her meetings with luxury developers, and her explicit targeting of the Malibu property. Clara listened, her face hardening, then concluded flatly, "She's a con artist, and Julian's her mark." Eleanor confirmed her silence to Julian. "He wouldn't believe me," she explained. "He'd assume I was interfering, being overprotective. He's always been susceptible to flattery." Clara, ever the pragmatist, leaned forward. "So what's your plan? I assume you have one." Eleanor offered a faint smile. "I've restructured the trust that holds the Malibu property. It now bypasses both you and Julian, transferring directly to your daughters upon my death." Clara blinked, absorbing the magnitude of the news. "That's significant. Julian will be furious." Eleanor took a slow sip of her wine, her gaze steady. "Julian will eventually understand if he's capable of growth. But there's more. I've prepared a wedding gift for the happy couple." The gift, she explained, was a comprehensive dossier detailing Serafina's true intentions, the carefully documented lies, the recorded conversations with Maya Sanchez, the meetings with Howard Kingsley of Oceanfront Developments, and tucked inside the new trust documents, legally binding and irrefutable, ensuring Serafina would gain nothing from her deception. Clara quietly observed, "You realize this will likely end their marriage. and quite possibly damage your relationship with Julian permanently. Eleanor met her daughter's gaze, unwavering. I'm willing to risk that to protect him from someone who sees him as nothing more than access to property and money. What kind of mother would I be if I stood by and allowed that? A silence fell between them, heavy with unspoken understanding and the weight of the decision. Clara reached across the polished table, her hand covering Eleanor's. The girls and I will support whatever you decide, Mom. Always. The simple gesture, the unspoken solidarity, fortified Eleanor's resolve. She had always been the peacekeeper, the one to yield. No longer. This time she would fight. The next morning, Eleanor put the final touches on her wedding gift for Julian and Serafina. The package was deceptively beautiful. Heavy cream paper embossed with the Vance family crest, tied with genuine silk ribbon. Inside the main box, she nestled a smaller antique film canister, once holding the original print of her father Arthur Vance's most famous screenplay. Within it, Eleanor arranged three crucial items with careful precision: the newly executed trust documents, establishing Sophia and Isabella as the future owners of the Malibu property, with specific prohibitions against its sale or commercial development, the comprehensive dossier on Serafina Thorne, exposing her fabricated background, strategic relationships, and explicit targeting of the Malibu home, and a personal letter penned in Eleanor's own hand, a powerful testament to legacy, family, and the difference between possessions and heritage. As she sealed the package, Eleanor contemplated the inevitable: Julian's rage, Serafina's exposed duplicity, and the potential fracturing of family bonds. But she also considered what she was protecting: not just a valuable piece of real estate, but the very soul of her family. Her father's words echoed in her mind. Some legacies were worth fighting for, even at the cost of temporary peace. With the package complete, Eleanor called her most trusted driver, a man named Marcus, whose discretion was as reliable as his punctuality. She handed him the elegantly wrapped box, her instructions clear and precise. Deliver this to Julian Vance's loft, Marcus. Ensure it's given directly to him and confirm receipt. There was a quiet understanding in Marcus's nod. He had been with the Vance family for decades, a silent observer of their triumphs and their trials. He understood the gravity of the moment without needing a single additional word. Once Marcus departed, Eleanor retreated to her living room, its vast windows framing the tumultuous beauty of the Pacific. The ocean, usually a calming presence, seemed particularly restless today, waves crashing against the shore with a thunderous determination that mirrored the storm brewing within her. The air crackled with a silent tension, a prelude to the inevitable confrontation. She sank into a plush armchair, her gaze fixed on the horizon where the sky met the churning sea in an indistinct line. There was no turning back now. The die was cast. She had made her choice, not out of malice, but out of a fierce, protective love for her family and its enduring legacy. She closed her eyes, preparing herself for the deluge of emotions, the accusations, the anger that was surely on its way. Let it come, she thought, a faint, resolute smile gracing her lips. I had weathered worse. She had survived the devastating loss of her husband, navigated the turbulent waters of raising two headstrong children, and upheld the Vance name with grace and resilience. This too she would face. The truth, raw and unvarnished, was now in motion. Eleanor thought of her granddaughters, Sophia and Isabella, their bright laughter echoing in her mind. They were the true beneficiaries of this fight, the inheritors of a legacy far richer than any material possession. The Malibu house wasn't just bricks and mortar. It was a repository of memories, of generations of Vance family life, of her father's creative spirit. It was the heart of their shared history, and she would not allow it to be dismantled for a speculative development or the whims of a mercenary. The silence in the house stretched, punctuated only by the rhythmic roar of the waves. Eleanor drew a deep breath, the salty air filling her lungs. Her resolve was unshakable. She had acted not as a vengeful mother, but as a guardian of her family's future. The package, now in transit, was not just a wedding gift. It was a gauntlet thrown, a declaration that the Vance legacy would endure untainted by avarice. The storm was coming, but Eleanor Vance was ready. If you're gripped by this story of betrayal and a mother's fierce protection, Don't go anywhere. There's so much more to come. Hit that like button, share this with anyone who needs to hear it, and subscribe so you don't miss a single twist. The call came at precisely 7:43 p.m. Eleanor had been watching the last blush of sunset fade from the sky, a rare moment of peace before the inevitable storm. The phone buzzed, Julian's name flashing on the screen. She took a steadying breath and answered, her voice deliberately calm. "Hello, Julian." What followed was a cacophony. From the other end of the line, a high-pitched scream ripped through the air, Serafina Thorne's unmistakable. It was immediately followed by the shattering sound of glass, objects crashing to the floor, and Julian Vance's voice, strained beyond recognition, fighting to be heard over the chaos. His words finally cut through the maelstrom, raw and laced with disbelief. "What the hell did you do?" Eleanor didn't flinch. "I sent a wedding gift, Julian. I take it you've opened it." Julian sputtered, a vein throbbing visibly in her mind's eye. "Are you insane?" "Serafina is—" Another crash, louder this time, punctuated his sentence, followed by a fresh torrent of screaming, a primal shriek of fury and panic. Eleanor allowed herself a small, mirthless smile. Having difficulty maintaining her composure, it seems. Perhaps that's what happens when one's true intentions are exposed. "These allegations are completely false," Julian insisted, but the tremor in his voice, the underlying uncertainty, betrayed his outrage. "You fabricated this entire—" "I don't fabricate evidence, Julian," Eleanor corrected him, her tone firm. "Everything in that dossier is meticulously documented. Your bride, it appears, has been planning to use you to access the Malibu property from the moment she set eyes on it. There are witness statements, transcripts of her conversations, photographs, and detailed timelines." Suddenly, Serafina's voice, sharper and clearer, as if she'd snatched the phone from Julian, pierced the line. "That bitter old hag! She can't prove anything, it's all lies." Julian evidently wrestled the phone back. His voice dropped, losing some of its initial fury, replaced by a devastating quiet. "I already have the trust documents too, Mom. You changed the inheritance, yo. You cut me out completely." Eleanor kept her tone matter-of-fact, devoid of any discernible emotion. "I protected the house from those who see it only as a commodity, Julian. It's always been about family legacy, not an asset to be sold off to the highest bidder. The property will now pass to your nieces, Sophia and Isabella, upon my death, with your sister, Clara, as the trustee." "You had no right," Julian protested, the words laced with a profound sense of injury and injustice. Eleanor's reply was blunt, unapologetic. "I had every right. The house is mine, Julian. Not yours, not yet. And now, not ever." Another string of furious shouts erupted in the background. "She's locked herself in the bathroom," Julian reported, sounding shell-shocked. "She's threatening to call her lawyer and fight this." Eleanor allowed a hint of steel to enter her tone. "She can certainly try, but I think you'll find I've been extremely thorough. Her past associations, her previous legal entanglements, they're all there. She won't have a leg to stand on." Silence stretched between them, thick and heavy. When Julian finally spoke again, his voice was suddenly small, stripped of its earlier indignation. "Did you know, Mom? Did you already suspect her?" Eleanor admitted, "I suspected something wasn't right from the start. Your sudden marriage, her immediate demand for the house, it fit a pattern I've observed before, Julian." His bitterness, sharp and wounded, crept in. "In my relationships, you mean? Because I'm such a predictable failure at them?" Eleanor gently corrected him. "Because you've allowed yourself to be vulnerable to a certain type of manipulation, Julian. There's a difference. Love should not be transactional." Just then, Serafina's voice, crystal clear and venomous, again took over the line as if she'd somehow grabbed the phone again from the bathroom. "You're just a selfish old woman who can't stand seeing her son happy. You're jealous." Eleanor waited, unruffled, for Julian to reclaim the phone. When he did, his voice was subdued, the fight draining from him. "Julian," Eleanor interrupted him before he could speak, "I read the full dossier, not just the outline, but every single piece of evidence. Look at it with clear eyes, Julian. Love it. Then decide if this marriage, if this woman, is what you truly want." A flicker of his old defiance returned. "And if it is, Mom? If I choose her despite all this, then that is my choice to make. But it won't change mine regarding the house. Eleanor softened her tone, a maternal ache surfacing through her resolve. The door is always open for you as my son, Julian. Always, but not for those who seek to exploit our family's legacy. You need to choose where your loyalties lie. With that, Eleanor hung up. Almost immediately, her phone vibrated with a frantic text from Clara. Julian just called, absolutely frantic. Said, "You've destroyed his life. What happened?" Eleanor typed a concise reply. "The wedding gift was delivered. It's going about as expected." Clara's next message came swiftly. "The girls and I are coming early, arriving tomorrow instead of next week. You shouldn't be alone for the fallout." Eleanor felt an unexpected tightening in her throat. She hadn't realized how much she needed that support. Later, under the cloak of night, a car sped up her long driveway. Serafina, alone, emerged from the vehicle, her silhouette framed by the harsh glare of the headlights. She pounded on Eleanor's front door with a ferocity that rattled the panes. Maria, Eleanor's longtime housekeeper, answered, her demeanor impeccably calm despite the aggressive hammering. "Mrs. Vance is not receiving visitors this evening," Serafina hissed, her voice sharp with unbridled rage. "I'm not a visitor. I'm family now. Tell her to face me like a woman instead of hiding behind her files and spies." Maria, without a word, simply closed the door with a soft click. Serafina let out a frustrated cry, then kicked the sturdy mahogany door repeatedly, the thuds echoing in the night. Moments later, Eleanor's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This isn't over. You have no idea who you're dealing with. I will have that house one way or another." Eleanor forwarded the message to Edward Hayes and Lena Chen, then calmly blocked the number. The storm had broken indeed, but Eleanor Vance was standing firm. If you're gripped by this story of betrayal and a mother's fierce protection, don't go anywhere. There's so much more to come. Hit that like button, share this with anyone who needs to hear it, and subscribe so you don't miss a single twist. The next morning, the storm intensified. Eleanor's phone rang, displaying Edward Hayes' name. "Serafina Thorne has been making some concerning moves," he reported, his voice crisp. "She visited 3 tabloid journalists this morning, shopping a story about Arthur Vance having fathered an illegitimate child." Eleanor nearly laughed, a sharp, disbelieving sound. "That's impossible. My father's life was scrutinized by multiple biographers. There was no secret child." Edward confirmed Serafina was claiming to have documentation. Eleanor immediately called Lena Chen, instructing her to send cease and desist letters to every publication Serafina had approached. Edward also revealed Serafina had contacted Horizon developers, presenting herself as having imminent access to your property and authority to discuss preliminary assessments. Clara, who had arrived earlier that morning with Sophia and Isabella, her bags barely unpacked, listened to the details, her expression darkening. "She's despicable, attacking Grandpa's reputation with manufactured scandals now." "It's a desperate move," Eleanor observed, her voice steady. "She's losing control of the narrative and striking out however she can, no matter how outlandish." Just as they finished discussing the new threats, Eleanor's phone rang again. An unknown number. She answered cautiously. "Mrs. Vance, this is Maya Sanchez," a hesitant voice said. I was Serafina's friend. I need to talk to you about Serafina." 20 minutes later, Maya, a striking young woman with an anxious energy that vibrated around her, sat across from Eleanor and Clara in the sun-drenched living room. "I'm not doing this out of loyalty to you or your son," Maya quickly clarified, her eyes darting between them. "Serafina and I had a falling out last night. She's gone too far." Maya revealed Serafina wanted her to notarize forged documents, supposed letters between your father and this woman he allegedly had a child with, letters she created using AI. Eleanor raised an eyebrow, a flicker of cold amusement in her gaze. "And you were unwilling to commit criminal fraud?" Maya flinched, looking away. "I've done some questionable things for Serafina, Mrs. Vance, I won't deny that. But forgery that could be traced directly to me? No, that's how people end up in prison." Her voice gained a desperate edge. "She's meeting with developers tomorrow, claiming she has power of attorney over your affairs due to your declining mental state. She's created a fake document for that too. Eleanor's heart, which had been steadily beating through the chaos, gave a sharp jolt. And Julian? She asked, her concern for her son overriding her anger. Maya shifted uncomfortably in her seat. She's keeping him insulated, telling him you're launching a smear campaign against her, that you're just jealous and bitter. But last night, after he came back from dinner with you, I heard them arguing. He was asking about recordings, about the things in your dossier. Maya twisted a delicate ring on her finger. She's afraid she's losing her grip on him. With a trembling hand, Maya produced a manila envelope. Inside were printouts of the forged power of attorney, screenshots of the fabricated letters, and damning communications between Serafina and the AI software she used, even detailed instructions on how to replicate handwriting. I took these last night when she was asleep, Maya confessed. I know it's not much, but it's more than enough, Maya, Eleanor assured her, a new strategy forming in her mind. Thank you, my attorney will be in touch. We can arrange for an agreement that offers you immunity for your cooperation. Maya's relief was palpable. She nodded, tears welling in her eyes. There's one more thing, she said, her voice barely a whisper. She's meeting Julian for lunch at noon today. She's planning to convince him to sign a document granting her authority to negotiate regarding the house. She thinks if he signs, it'll bypass your trust somehow, or at least give her leverage. Eleanor's composure remained intact, but her mind raced. Time was of the essence. Thank you, Maya. You've done the right thing. As Maya left, Eleanor immediately called Julian. He answered, his voice thick with reluctance. Julian, Eleanor stated, without preamble, whatever document Serafina asked you to sign today, regarding the house, regarding me, regarding anything of significance, I strongly suggest you read it very carefully. Perhaps even have your own attorney review it first. A stunned silence met her words, then Julian's sharp intake of breath. How did you... You're having her followed. There was a mixture of accusation and dawning realization in his voice. Eleanor corrected him gently, her tone calm yet firm. I'm protecting my interests, Julian, as you should protect yours. The threats she's making, the forgeries she's attempting, the lies she's telling to developers. They all put you at risk too. A long, heavy silence stretched between them, punctuated by the faint sound of the ocean outside Eleanor's window. Then Julian spoke again, his voice suddenly subdued, all the bluster gone. The recordings, Mom, in the dossier, they're real, aren't they? Unedited. Eleanor confirmed, her voice filled with a quiet sadness. Completely authentic, Julian, as is everything else in that file. I need to go, Julian said, his voice flat. Of course, Eleanor replied, her heart aching for him, yet knowing this painful truth was necessary. Enjoy your lunch. She hung up, a profound sense of foreboding settling over her. Julian was finally seeing the cracks, but would it be enough to shatter his illusions entirely? If you're gripped by this story of betrayal and a mother's fierce protection, don't go anywhere. There's so much more to come. Hit that like button, share this with anyone who needs to hear it, and subscribe so you don't miss a single twist. Julian Vance's Porsche screeched up the long driveway, braking hard, tires kicking up gravel. He emerged alone, slamming the car door, radiating a raw fury that seemed to ripple the very air around him. Eleanor met him at the door, her expression calm, yet prepared for the inevitable confrontation. She tried to trick me into signing power of attorney, Julian spat, his voice tight with controlled rage, before Eleanor could even speak. He pushed past her, striding into the expansive living room, his hands running through his already disheveled hair. No, you don't, he muttered, catching Eleanor's gentle, knowing look. Because that's not even the worst part. When I questioned it, she had a complete meltdown. And then her phone rang, and I saw it. The screen notification. Horizon developers confirming tomorrow's meeting about the Malibu property. Eleanor said nothing, allowing the truth to settle over him, watching the layers of denial peel away from her son's face, revealing raw pain. Julian's voice cracked, thick with a profound sense of betrayal. Everything you said, everything in those recordings, it's all true, isn't it? She never loved me. She just wanted... He gestured wildly around the opulent room. This, This house, our legacy. Eleanor reached out, her hand gently touching his arm. I'm so sorry, Julian. He sank onto the grand staircase, burying his head in his hands, the picture of defeated despair. How did I not see it? How was I so blind? Eleanor sat beside him, her voice soft, empathetic. Because she targeted your vulnerabilities precisely, Julian. She's very, very good at what she does. She saw what you wanted to believe, and she fed it to you. Minutes of heavy silence passed, broken only by the distant murmur of the ocean. Then Julian slowly straightened, a new determination hardening his gaze, replacing the pain. He met his mother's eyes. I need your help, Mom, to end this, to undo what I've done. Eleanor covered his hand, a surge of relief and love washing over her. Of course, Julian. That's what family is for. Julian stayed in the guest room that night, the light under his door visible past midnight as he paced. Morning found him haggard, dark circles under his eyes, but undeniably resolute. He'd ignored Serafina Thorne's 37 frantic calls overnight. What do you want to do? Eleanor asked, offering him a fresh cup of coffee. Julian met her gaze, his jaw set. End it completely. But I need to understand exactly what I'm dealing with first. He then reviewed Maya Sanchez's folder, the forged power of attorney, the fabricated letters about Arthur Vance, the damning screenshots. His voice was flat, controlled anger simmering beneath the surface. She was planning to declare you mentally incompetent, to steal the house and sell it out from under you, and to smear Grandpa's reputation with these fake love letters to boost her fabricated story. He closed the folder, the finality of the action echoing his resolve. I want her gone from my life, from this family, from this house, permanently. That can be arranged, Eleanor confirmed, already on the phone with Lena Chen. Divorce papers citing fraud and misrepresentation have already been prepared. They can be filed today. Do it, Julian said without hesitation. And the tabloids, the developers, all her other scheme, he began, a flicker of concern. Eleanor assured him, cease and desist letters have been sent. A formal complaint to the district attorney's office is being prepared based on Maya's evidence. We're moving on all fronts. Julian looked at her, a faint flicker of admiration in his weary eyes. You've been 3 steps ahead this entire time, haven't you? Eleanor offered a gentle, somewhat melancholic smile. I've had to be, Julian. When you exclude family from major life decisions, we're forced to react rather than participate. Just then, the security system chimed, alerting them to a taxi pulling up the driveway. Serafina. Julian squared his shoulders, a grim resolve settling over his features. I'll handle this. Eleanor, without a word, activated the house's recording system. Serafina's voice, when Maria opened the door, dripped with calculated relief, a practiced performance. Julian, thank God, why aren't you answering my calls? Your mother has lost her mind, spreading insane lies about me. Julian's voice, cold and controlled, cut through her practiced concern. I think you know exactly why I'm here. The game is over, Serafina. Serafina's eyes widened, a flicker of panic replacing her pretense. Game? What are you talking about, baby? If this is about that document yesterday... Stop, Julian interjected, his voice firm. I've seen everything. The recordings of your conversations, the forged power of attorney, the fake letters you created to smear my grandfather. Your meetings with developers, meticulously documented. Serafina's pretense vanished entirely, replaced by a venomous sneer. Fine, so what? You think you're special? You were a mark, honey, a pathetically easy one. Julian's calm response surprised even Eleanor. You're right, I was an easy mark. That's on me. Serafina, momentarily thrown by his lack of a reaction, regrouped quickly, her eyes narrowing. I'll destroy you in the press, your reputation, your family's legacy. I'll burn it all down. Julian countered, his voice gaining strength. With what? The fake scandal you fabricated about my grandfather? Every tabloid has already received legal notice, backed by a sworn affidavit from Maya. Every developer has been notified that you have no authority, and that any continued contact will be considered attempted fraud. His voice dropped, dangerously low. And that's my mother you're about to insult. The woman you dismissed as an old lady who wouldn't live forever, who turns out to be considerably more formidable than either of us fully appreciated. Serafina hissed, "This isn't over. You've made an enemy you can't afford." Julian's response was quiet, almost regretful. "No, what I've done is recognize a mistake before it costs me everything that actually matters." He softened slightly, a hint of genuine sadness in his tone. "If you'd actually taken the time to know me, Serafina, truly know me, I would have given you anything freely. Love makes me generous. Manipulation makes me resolve." His final words were delivered with a chilling finality. "Goodbye, Serafina. Divorce papers will be delivered today. Don't come back here, ever." The door closed with a definitive click. Julian appeared in the kitchen doorway, a complex mixture of pain, relief, and quiet dignity etched on his face. "Well, that's done." Eleanor rose, opening her arms. Julian stepped into her embrace without hesitation, burying his face in her shoulder, a lifetime of unspoken words passing between them in that moment. "I'm sorry, Mom," he mumbled, his voice thick with emotion. "I'm sorry for everything." "I know," Eleanor whispered, stroking his hair. "And I forgive you." He pulled back, wiping his eyes. "The trust documents for Sophia and Isabella, that's not changing, is it?" Eleanor shook her head. "No, the house will remain in the family, Julian, but not as an asset to be leveraged or sold. It will be a home, a heritage." Julian nodded slowly, a deep understanding finally settling within him. "I understand, Mom, finally." Moments later, Clara, Sophia, and Isabella joined them. The table was set for breakfast, and for the first time in what felt like a long time, the Vance family sat down together, ready to heal. If you're gripped by this story of betrayal and a mother's fierce protection, don't go anywhere. There's so much more to come. Hit that like button, share this with anyone who needs to hear it, and subscribe so you don't miss a single twist. Lena Chen filed the divorce papers promptly, and Serafina Thorne was served within hours. The response was immediate, a flurry of threatening texts to Julian and a formal statement from her new aggressive attorney, Marcus Sterling, promising a legal battle. Lena, however, remained unperturbed. She assured Eleanor and Julian that Serafina's claims were weak at best. The evidence of her fraudulent intentions is overwhelming. Julian, staring at the speakerphone, his voice heavy with self-reproach, asked about criminal charges. Lena expected the district attorney's office to pursue charges, likely offering a plea deal given the mounting evidence. "I still can't believe I fell for it," Julian mused, shaking his head. "All of it." Eleanor, seizing the opportunity, gently suggested, "It's a pattern, Julian, one you might consider exploring with professional help." He looked up sharply. "A therapist, you mean?" Eleanor confirmed. "This isn't the first time you've been drawn to someone who ultimately wanted to use you rather than love you. Understanding why might prevent it from happening again." Just then, Sophia Vance, Eleanor's granddaughter, appeared in the doorway, her eyes wide. "Grandma, there's someone on the news talking about us. About great-grandpa." On the large screen in the living room, Serafina Thorne, flanked by Marcus Sterling, was making a prepared statement, her voice dripping with false indignation. "I have been forced out of my marital home by my mother-in-law's manipulative tactics and vengeful machinations. I feel compelled to share certain truths about the Vance family that have long been suppressed." She then launched into a carefully crafted, fabricated allegation about Arthur Vance having an illegitimate child, even flashing what appeared to be faded antique letters. Julian, seeing the distress on Clara's face and the girl's confusion, explained, his voice tight with anger. "Those were always forgeries created using AI that Maya told us about." Clara, indignant, slammed her hand on the armrest. "How do we stop this? Great-grandpa's reputation is being dragged through the mud." Eleanor, already on her feet, moved with decisive calm. "We counter it with truth." She mobilized her family. Clara was tasked with contacting the university archive department, where Arthur Vance's papers were meticulously cataloged. Julian was to reach out to his friend at the Academy Museum, a curator who admired his grandfather's work. Eleanor, meanwhile, was already on the phone with Lena again. Their counter-strategy was swift and devastatingly effective. Within hours, the University of Southern California's Film Studies Department issued a formal statement, meticulously debunking Serafina's claims with irrefutable historical evidence. The Academy Museum announced a special exhibition celebrating Arthur Vance's legacy, emphasizing his unwavering commitment to his family and his artistic integrity. Three of Arthur Vance's most respected biographers appeared on various entertainment news programs, systematically dismantling Serafina's allegations with scholarly precision, painting her as a desperate con artist. But the most devastating blow came from an unexpected source. Brenda Jensen, the actress Serafina had paid to pose as the illegitimate daughter, contacted a major entertainment website to recant her claims. She admitted she was paid by Serafina, provided with forged letters, and coached on her story, all corroborated by Maya's earlier evidence. The public outcry was immense. The district attorney's office announced an immediate investigation into Serafina Thorne for fraud and attempted blackmail. Marcus Sterling, clearly seeing the writing on the wall, publicly withdrew as her counsel. Julian received a text message. It was from Serafina. "She wants to meet," he read aloud, his voice devoid of emotion. "Willing to sign the divorce papers without contest if I can call off the legal dogs regarding potential criminal charges." Clara, ever practical, pointed out, "That's not actually within your power, Julian. It's up to the DA now." Eleanor added, "And agreeing to such a meeting would only give her another opportunity to manipulate. She's desperate." Julian typed a brief response, then set his phone aside, the screen face down on the table. "I told her to communicate through attorneys from now on. I have nothing more to say to her." He leaned back, gazing out at the vast, shimmering ocean, a profound quiet settling over him. "A week ago, I thought I was in love," he mused, his voice distant. "Now I can barely remember what that felt like. It's like waking from a particularly vivid but ultimately meaningless dream." Eleanor reached for his hand, her touch reassuring. "Some dreams fade quickly in the light of day, Julian, especially those built on illusion rather than substance." Then Julian turned to Eleanor, a genuine, earnest expression on his face. "I've been thinking about getting professional help to understand my patterns, and I found a therapist. My first session is next week." He offered a self-deprecating smile. "Apparently there's quite a waiting list for entertainment industry professionals with narcissistic tendencies and boundary issues." Eleanor's eyes welled up, a wave of profound love and relief washing over her. "I'm so proud of you, Julian." He squeezed her hand. "Thanks, Mom, for everything, for seeing what I couldn't see, for fighting for what matters when I was too blind to recognize its value." Eleanor felt a deep sense of peace settle within her, a quiet understanding that the storm had truly passed, leaving behind a stronger, more resilient foundation. Clara, watching the exchange, raised her glass. "To new beginnings." Julian lifted his own glass, his gaze meeting his mother's. "An old wisdom." Eleanor, tears glistening, added, "To family, the real thing." If you're gripped by this story of betrayal and a mother's fierce protection, don't go anywhere. There's so much more to come. Hit that like button, share this with anyone who needs to hear it, and subscribe so you don't miss a single twist. 6 months later, autumn's golden light graced the Malibu coastline, painting the ocean in shades of sapphire and silver. Eleanor Vance sat in her study, the soft breeze rustling the leaves outside, as she reviewed the final divorce decree. Julian's brief, disastrous marriage to Serafina Thorne was officially over. A profound sense of closure settled over her as she scanned the document. Criminal charges against Serafina had also been resolved with a plea agreement, 2 years probation, community service, and a strict restraining order keeping her far away from the Vance family and their properties. Justice, in its own way, had been served. Julian Vance, for his part, had committed fully to therapy, diligently exploring the insecurities and patterns that had made him vulnerable. He had even moved to a smaller, more understated house in Venice Beach, a deliberate step away from the ostentation that had once defined his aspirations. Less to prove, he'd explained to Eleanor, less to hide behind. Clara Vance and her daughter had returned north, their summer visits seamlessly extending into the autumn, strengthening bonds that had once felt frayed. Sophia Vance was now deeply immersed in college applications, her dreams of filmmaking reignited. Isabella Vance, ever the free spirit, was excelling as a competitive surfer, her laughter often carried on the ocean breeze. Eleanor herself had been busy. She had added a detailed family history to the trust documents, recording not just the lineage of the property, but the lessons learned through crisis and recovery, a testament to the resilience of their lineage. Today, however, was about celebration. It was Eleanor's 70th birthday, a milestone she approached with serene confidence, knowing her family was stronger, more honest than it had been in years. Julian arrived first, precisely on time, bearing a vibrant bouquet of hydrangeas and a small, elegantly wrapped package. He embraced Eleanor with an easy affection that warmed her heart. "Happy birthday, Mom. You look beautiful." Eleanor smiled, accepting the compliment graciously. "Flattery, but I'll accept it. Come, Maria needs help with the appetizers." It was a small thing, Julian's willingness to participate in the mundane rhythms of family life. But to Eleanor, it spoke volumes of his growth. After greeting Clara and the girls, Julian presented his gift, a leather-bound journal embossed with Eleanor's initials. "Open it," he urged, a hint of nervousness and pride in his eyes. Eleanor untied the ribbon, her fingers tracing the smooth leather. The first page was inscribed in Julian's handwriting. "For my mother, who taught me that legacy isn't measured in property or possessions, but in wisdom passed from one generation to the next. This is my contribution to our family's story." She turned the page to find his reflections, acknowledging his mistakes, exploring his new understanding of values, and articulating his hopes for the future. Eleanor's voice was thick with emotion as she looked up. "Julian, this is extraordinary." He admitted, "It was my therapist's suggestion to start journaling, to process everything, but it became something more, a way of connecting with our family's history, with the legacy I nearly helped destroy." Eleanor embraced him again, tears welling in her eyes. "This is the most meaningful gift you could have given me, my son." Then Julian revealed even more. "I've been working on a documentary about Grandpa Arthur Vance. Not just the Hollywood legend everyone thinks they know, but the man behind the typewriter, the father, the husband, the artist." He suggested, "I thought maybe we could premiere it here, but on the terrace, family first." Eleanor's heart swelled. Perfect, absolutely perfect. Clara arrived then with Sophia and Isabella, bringing with them a flurry of gifts, laughter, and energetic chaos that filled the house. Dinner was served on the terrace as the sun dipped towards the Pacific, casting a golden glow over the scene. Eleanor looked at her family, Sophia discussing film theory with Clara, Isabella recounting a particularly exhilarating surfing tale, Julian engaged and present, truly here for the first time in what felt like forever. As the last rays of sunlight touched the horizon, Eleanor rose, her glass in hand. "To 70 years," she toasted, her voice clear and strong. "All of them part of a story still being written." Sophia, her young eyes bright with adoration, added, "To Grandma Eleanor, who showed us what strength really looks like." Clara chimed in, "To this house and everything it represents." Julian, his gaze meeting Eleanor's, concluded, "To family, the real thing." They clinked glasses, the sound a chime of unity and hope. Later, as the stars began to pepper the darkening sky, Julian set up a projector on the terrace, a makeshift screen unfurling against the wall. He began to share old home movies of Arthur Vance, grainy images of a younger Eleanor chasing a toddler, Julian across the Malibu sand, David Vance debating passionately with Arthur on the very same terrace, Eleanor's own mother laughing effortlessly into the camera. Eleanor murmured, her voice laced with wonder, "I'd forgotten these existed." Julian explained, "I found them in a box at Grandpa's old office, digitized them from the USC archive as part of my documentary research." Sophia, pointing to the screen where Arthur Vance was gesturing emphatically towards the ocean, asked, "Grandma, what were you talking about with great-grandpa there?" Eleanor watched the scene unfold, a faint smile on her lips. "He was telling me about legacy, about how this house wasn't just walls and windows, but a repository for our family's soul." I didn't fully understand what he meant then. She looked at Julian, her eyes shining with newfound clarity. "But I do now." Julian squeezed her hand, a wordless understanding passing between them. He knew now, too. As the last home movie flickered to an end, Eleanor felt a profound sense of continuity. Her family healed, the legacy protected, not just in documents, but in hearts and minds, ready to be passed down through generations. We're married now, Mom. Send me the key to the house in Malibu. My son, Julian's cold demand, after marrying a woman I'd never met, sliced through me like a blade of pure ice. Staring out at the vast Pacific, the ocean that witnessed my family's every triumph and tragedy, my father's old screenplay sense screamed that something was deeply wrong. This house wasn't just property, it was the repository of our family's soul, and it was under threat. My investigation quickly unmasked Serafina Thorne as a calculated con artist, meticulously targeting Julian to seize our legacy. I acted decisively, placing the house in an irrevocable trust for my granddaughters, Sophia and Isabella, and delivered a wedding gift of undeniable truth. The fallout was a painful reckoning, yet Julian, confronted with irrefutable evidence, finally saw the deception. His pain was profound, but his commitment to healing and protecting our family was even stronger. Months later, my 70th birthday became a testament to forgiveness and resilience. Julian, now transformed, presented a journal of his reflections, a deeply personal contribution to our family's story. His new documentary about my father, premiered on our terrace, reminded us all that true legacy isn't measured in possessions, but in the wisdom, love, and unwavering bonds passed through generations. The house, once a target of avarice, stood again as a beacon of genuine family, its soul intact, its future bright.